Welcome to the Artfluence podcast, where we talk about how design impacts the way we live, work, and invest. I'm Paul Fatkins, one of your hosts, and with me today is
Nino Samardzic.
How you doing, Nino?
Pretty good, good.
Unfortunately, Nick normally does the intro, but today he's a little bit under the weather. So, Nick, we hope you feel better. But Nino and I are here today. We're actually going to talk about different technologies used within the architectural field.
Yeah.
So I know, exciting stuff.
It is exciting stuff. I mean, this technology changed to the time, and I still remembering some older people, more senior people in the office talking about back in the days when the pencil was used and erasers and all this stuff.
Do you know when I first got into the architectural world?
Yeah.
It's like I had exposure to a CAD class in high school.
Really?
And I don't know what version it was. Like now they just do it by the year.
Yeah.
So, you have 2024, 2025 versions of software that are out there. This was like 2 point something.
I know. I know.
But they're like, you can't use the computer.
No, it's actually, I remember.
They're like, you need to draw by hand.
Exactly.
First.
I know when I was in school, they didn't allow us to use the computer up to the maybe like a fourth year studio or something like that.
Yeah, I think once I got into Kent, it was the same thing. You were not allowed to touch a computer or any kind of digital device. You had a drafting table with a slide rule that went across the whole table, this massive table with this bar. You paid a few $100s for this thing to like slide up and down on the table. It was the coolest thing.
It was the coolest thing. I think I still have one. I think my mother is still keeping the one in the house back in Europe. It was
crazy too, because like you had these cable systems and you screw it into the table. And this whole thing, then you were able to just move it around wherever.
Yes. Horizontally, yes, and then it was different times, man. But as you mentioned, I really can enjoy it. It was because I love drafting. That's probably one of the main reason why I actually decided to use and choose this field. But I know then computers come in, and they didn't offer any classes in a college back in my country. So what I actually did like many things I did by myself. I got myself like a super good computer.
Yeah.
And I took some classes, and the first one I learned was AutoCAD.
Yeah.
And that was like a wow.
Yeah.
Then
I'm curious too, just going back to like the whole pencil mindset. Did you have hear any horror stories from like the older generation?
Oh, especially because you have to use eventually you have to switch to the ink.
Well,
and then if you messed up something, it was like just the way how you're gonna correct the mistakes.
I was talking to but also I heard stories like, oh, if you were an intern at an office, do you know what they'd make you do?
No.
Go around to every single desk in the office. So if you had 30 people working in that office, collect every single pencil in the office, and then you'd go around at the end of the day as an intern. Yeah. And one of your jobs was to sharpen everybody's pencils.
No kidding.
And so I had
that is so cool.
I had one of my friend's dad who's an architect. Yeah. And he was telling me this story. He's like, so just be thankful, like you interns now have it easy, because I used to have to stand there for like 2 hours.
Oh my God!
With like 1,000 pencils.
Oh my God!
He would collect it from the whole office, and making sure all of them were sharp.
Servant.
Yeah, and then he'd go and put them all back, so that the next day when the drafters or architects came in, they'd have pencils ready to go.
Oh my God, that is insane! Yeah. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I guess like if you had to sharpen mid-drawing, like you sharpen it yourself.
But another thing is like one thing is actually the floor plans that you create, but also you have to create the renderings. So you have to be like
I think that's something that architects have lost a little bit of
touch. Exactly. And because it was that like I know even today many people using like a sophisticated computers rendering systems and trying to renderings look like a hand sketch. Yeah. Almost like cheating the way.
It's funny, like when I would do renderings when I was in Chicago, working on whatever project. Yeah. Yeah, that was always a comment.
Yeah, exactly.
This looks too finalized. The client's gonna hate it because we're like showing something that basically looks like a freaking picture,
Exactly.
and that's not what they want to see. They want to see something that's like in
In
progress.
progress, exactly.
It's fluid. It's flexible. We can change it.
Because because like the final idea is not all like a decision maker, like want them to get engaged right away to make decision of material selection, on textures. It's like too many things in advance.
Yeah.
So you have to like show the progress of the design and idea creation to the client to kind of especially. And that's another thing that architects lose and they returning back is telling the story through design, because creation of design, when you all depended on your hands and tools, it was a little bit longer process.
Oh yeah.
And decision you have to make in a way that there is no undo. There is no like copy, paste, mirror.
Yeah.
It was actually more elaborative process to
Yeah.
make the decision. So developing the high quality design that has a story behind, it was more important back then than it was now, when you have flexibility to changing things much quicker.
It's like even you mentioning some of that stuff. Like I'm thinking about even going further back in time. Think about the guys that were, the chief architects or master architects, builders. They were literally like the guys on the site directing and making these decisions. And like you said, it's not like you draw a line and can erase it, or, in the computer world, just delete it and move it over a little bit and mirror it around and do whatever manipulation.
Exactly.
I mean, especially, back in like Renaissance and these other historical times, you had these guys where it's like you had a block of stone.
Exactly.
And you had to do something with it.
Exactly. You have to actually see the person in front, and you have like one shot.
Drawing with pencil is one thing, but I can't even imagine.
How
further back. I don't know if I think I'd be too stressed out.
I know it was.
Everyone on the site looked to you. What do we do?
So did you guys have in a school like these like a perspective, like how you draw the perspectives and all this stuff?
Yeah, we actually when we were in Florence for a little bit, we did some of that. Like even like in the field, and then we also did like other hand drafting courses and drawing courses where there are certain techniques that you're using, and we were using all the techniques that they were using
back in the days
from like when it was invented.
When perspective was invented, which we're talking the Renaissance.
Oh
that's when actually is it when perspective was a Renaissance? I think it was a Renaissance.
I think it was the baptistry in Florence.
Yes,
that was the first building drawn in
perspective. Yeah.
So like we were there in Florence, and we were doing all these drafting techniques that they were doing back then.
For people that don't know what we're talking about when we say perspective, that means like that object that are actually close to you, they're bigger, and object that are far back, they are smaller. So that's like, so you have that illusion of the 3D representations of the space.
It's crazy to think that at one point in time we hadn't figured out how to represent space on a piece of paper.
No, because you look at the drawings from the Greek period, or even from the or Egyptian period. Everything was like strictly 2 dimensions, a little bit cartoonish, and even during the like a classical time, during the Greek and later Romans, they were able to express that, and they start exploring the depth, but mostly not through the drawings. Yes, through the drawings with the shades. But also like especially through the sculpturing. So you have this like
relief.
Exactly, reliefs when they start exploring the depth and perception of the 3D space. But a few like a true revolution was during the Renaissance. And Brunelleschi and all these like first construction of the perspective.
I do want to mention the one story that sticks out in my head, just thinking about architectural history. Brunelleschi and Ghiberti.
Yes.
So when they were building the dome on the church in Florence, they got to the most important part to build it. And basically what happened was there was a competition like way back when for, I believe, something with the baptistry.
Yes.
Which Brunelleschi lost. and Ghiberti won. And so then Brunelleschi went off and studied like in Rome and the secrets of the Romans, whatever. He came back later, and then when he proposed the dome for the church, they're like, okay, great, we're going to give it to you, but your arch enemy over here is going to be the head master architect. And they got to that critical point where they were like
breathing it down your neck.
they were at like a critical stage in building the dome, which was Brunelleschi's design.
Yeah.
And his boss, he's like, all right, I'm sick today. I can't make it to the site. He's like, my boss is more than capable of taking care of this. And he had no idea because it wasn't his design. Political powers put him in place.
I know that story. Yeah.
And then basically what happened was he didn't know, and everything stopped for like a week or two or something like that.
Because boss doesn't know what the hell is going on.
And then eventually the boss got
kicked out.
And then it was Brunelleschi, and then they finished the dome. And
nice. Just to mention it, that dome collapsed several times before. It was like the church was unfinished because they from the builder and designer and to another builder and designer just couldn't figure out how to build a dome.
Yeah, it was open for 100 years.
100 years. Yeah. It was just like it was too ambitious, and there was like oh snap, we get to the point now we cannot figure out how to build this thing.
Yeah. They thought they would have to chop down a whole forest to like build scaffolding to support things as they built the dome.
Wow.
And like Brunelleschi's design, you didn't need any of that scaffolding.
No, it's like a self-supporting system. Yeah. That he also actually drew by hand and in 3D. Yeah. It was amazing.
So sorry for the
No, that's like you see actually that you cannot create something new without looking behind you and just see what actually happened, because there is so much knowledge that we, especially today when we're living in a informational age, when you have such easy access of, you're almost overcrowded with information. Now is the challenge to select correct information that is first truthful. The second, that is actually can help you with the stuff, and then one that can actually implement to your idea and advance it. Because that's why people study history, and that's why you have libraries, because someone already figured out the stuff, so it's gonna just help you make next step.
I think when you mentioned truthful, right? If you were to jump to the end of the line and just jump into the world of technology and the tools that are out there and available, I mean, you don't understand these principles. You don't understand what to do and how to do it. I think that's why, I mean, for Kent, like we started with drawing by hand and pencil, drawing in ink. When we were in Florence, we did all these same techniques that they were using back then. I'm assuming your school did something similar.
Same thing.
So you had to draw everything by pencil?
Yeah, we have to do everything by pencil. Then we had to use like ink. Exactly. And you have like all this and these things weren't cheap. Like this, like a pens with the ink in it. They all have like a different dimensions, thickness.
Back. I'm not going to show my age, but back like 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. No,
10 years ago.
10 years.
It was several $100s for
like
all this drawing
all
equipment.
the set. Yeah, you have that like a Standler or whatever it was, another like the manufacturer.
Some German
companies, exactly.
High precision.
Use this thick line for the all materials that is cut in section or in plan. Thin lines you use for dimensional lines. Drawings needs to be elaborate, not overcrowded. It was like and that is a little bit what is the lost today. The one big thing what is lost today with the newer generation is ability to understand when you cut the building, like do the cross section, what do you actually see on the other side? And they're not using the tool, and they just like, I ask them like, okay, give me like a couple the building section, and they cut it out the hell of the building. They don't even know, but they have to show what is the actually.
They're like a chef with a knife, and they're just like chop.
Exactly. It was like because you draw the section not because it's someone asked you to do it, but to help explain your design to the guy who's gonna build it, and you're cutting the section and a location where you cannot figure out that through the floor plans or through the elevations. So for example, where the new building, you're doing addition, a new building attached to the existing building, you're just cutting the section right there at the connection between buildings. So you can explain the guy who's building that how he's gonna make condition, how he's gonna attach these two building. Are you gonna have expansion joint there? How are you gonna do the flushing so water doesn't penetrate your building? How you do the water vapor barrier so the air and moisture doesn't affect your building. So this is all, or how the structure is gonna correlate, or you're gonna have a cantilever, or you're gonna have moment frame and all this stuff. How your roof is sloping. So all these elements are like what I'm seeing today, because they didn't go through that by hand motion. When you really have to, you have to study your design from multiple perspectives.
Yeah. I think that's where schools fail a little bit.
Yes.
I feel like, again, like they did a pretty good job with teaching technique to a certain point, but they also kind of stopped and they didn't go into that technical world.
No.
You know, so like you said, like you might have a certain understanding of principles and how to draw something, but then you start to, there's this disconnect. It's a gap, and you don't understand, like you said, where the water's going, why it's going there, how you redirect it.
Sorry interrupting you. When I see like I just have like a couple of interviews.
It's just you and me, so interrupt away.
Yeah. So thank you. So it was like when I was like we have recent interviews and I mean they are very smart, very talented individuals, but their like a portfolio looks like more like artwork. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, almost like a graphic designer.
Exactly, graphic design and architecture. Yes, needs the good design, needs the creativity, but down on the road, it's a technical discipline. It's engineering.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories I've told, I think many times, maybe even once here before. It's like the one designer in school comes over, you know, my teacher, and he's just like, oh yeah, and it looked like a freaking like floating cloud.
Yeah.
Like literally the whole thing was like suspended.
Yeah.
And I had nothing, like literally nothing.
Nothing to hold
and he's like, yeah, we'll just raise it up. And I'm like, okay. And I like, you know, my mind, I'm just like, but how does it like, stand? Okay, we raise it up. Yeah. How does it stay up? Right. So you're telling me to raise it design wise. How are we supporting it? And he takes like one little stick and he glues it to the base. You know, like gaps it and does the accelerator to like have the super glue hold it, and then he like puts it on top of the stick, very precariously balancing. And he's like, there, it's good enough for now. He's like, the engineer will figure out how to make it. And I'm just like, oh
no, don't do that. Engineer is gonna do it this way, because engineer. You have to also understand the engineers and how they brain function.
Well, I mean, collaboration is important.
It's a key. But if you send that to engineer, first they're gonna laugh at you.
Yeah,
that's the first thing. You don't want to do that. The second is he's
gonna want to work with you.
Yeah, exactly. And second on, he's gonna you're not gonna have one little stick. You're gonna have zillion of sticks that he's just gonna lay it out. The thing he think is the best, and then when you return back, they get their model. Then you're gonna have your columns in the middle of the kitchen, and your columns in the middle of the gym, or good luck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you as an architect, that's why this field is so multidisciplinary. You have to think about this stuff.
Yeah. I think you need to drive the initial conversation.
That's that.
If you want a 20-foot spacing or a 25-foot spacing, and your column is going to be, you know, within that grid, you drive that conversation. Because like you said, otherwise you're ending up with a column right in the middle of your kitchen.
Start from the name, architect. That means you're like a ultimate creator. That archi means above. That means super creator. Yeah. So you're the one who's actually managing putting things together, and then working with other team members, engineers, then you make that finalized product.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of technology, I would say, because I can't imagine trying to coordinate. Can you imagine like the Sydney Opera House?
Oh, jeez,
coordinating that and figuring out how to build that.
It was built,
it was built, and it's beautiful. And again, there was a whole architectural engineering team that figured that out. And I'm sure the engineers and architects probably were like, we're going to have to move into the same office for this project. He
started like just peeling the oranges, or it was something like that. That's how he created design. Utzon created that design by just peeling off the oranges and came out to his idea.
Yeah. But again, like engineering wise, it was critical
It
to have
was
that collaboration.
exactly. It was
Yeah.
key.
Now it's like you have a computer where you can have a model
Yeah.
up in the cloud, and literally anyone has access from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And you can work with any engineering firm you want,
Yeah.
as long as they have access to that model,
Yeah.
and it's all just shared
And,
seamlessly.
and to be honest with you, building's still failing. You know, it was like you have like they don't happening that often, thank God. But even from the back in the days, like start looking at the Pisa Tower, and then like just forward today.
Well, I think everything back in the day was trial.
Exactly, it's a trial and error. Exactly.
If it works,
It
great.
worked
We'll
great.
do it on the next one,
and
and maybe just
a
like
little bit better.
just change something slightly
Yeah.
differently. But like the next one is pretty much the same,
Yeah.
but like just
Well,
change.
maybe we should like explore the site condition and how much the ground can hold it before it's start like a
Yeah.
moving in one direction or like so yeah, that was really important. But going back to the topic of the drafting, so yeah, I think
I was
that
gonna say I wanted to talk about Pisa more.
I know I told you.
Even modern times, they had problems figuring out conditions.
Yes, because
Yeah.
we're constantly pushing the boundaries,
Yeah.
which is the key for every civilization. You know, if you wanna say what is actually remarkable architecture of the 21st century, I mean, just started like from the I don't know Calatrava, who was actually both structural engineer and architect.
Yeah, I think he was engineer first.
First,
Yeah.
exactly. Then maybe like look at Renzo Piano. He is very well versed in structural engineering as well.
Yeah.
Like when you see how he actually almost starts like from the concept, and next thing is just exploring the support of the system, and the system is a part of architecture and a beauty.
Yeah.
So then I don't know.
So
Start.
you're saying we should go back to school for structural engineering?
So no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
We just have to understand the space
Yeah.
a little bit better, and technology there is to really to help you, because I was I was in one of my generation was pioneering in using the AutoCAD,
Oh yeah.
and back then I didn't have like a big plotter, so I actually printed everything on 11 by 17 and stitched together. So and then the lines will not perfectly align. So it was
but from 5 feet back, it looks good enough.
exactly for 5 feet back. Yeah, it was.
I've done that too.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a tedious work. Then then plotting and everything. And I remember I was like, what is the next level? Of course, 3D.
Yeah.
So I built my first model in 3D in AutoCAD.
Yeah. I've had guys that I've
Yeah.
come across in my past where they do all of their work still in AutoCAD.
Really?
There was somebody in our Chicago
Yeah.
office. He would not model in Revit
Yeah.
or SketchUp or any other software. He would stick 100% to AutoCAD.
Really?
And so he would build a freaking
Oh
skyscraper.
my goodness! In AutoCAD.
AutoCAD.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You're
talking like 400 some units.
Jeez.
Yeah. Stacked on top of each other, all in AutoCAD.
Little extrusions there and there. All lines needs to be connected. Polygon line. Oh my!
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine.
Yeah. I can't.
No.
I don't know how he did it. So.
And then it was actually what my first exposure to BIM software, and I'm gonna explain what BIM is, was actually not with the Revit. It was with the ArchiCAD.
Yeah.
ArchiCAD is actually the software built by Hungarian company Grafsoft, and Hungary is just like it's border to the Serbia.
Yeah, I was gonna say you throw a stone and you
Yeah, so it was actually, and we get this for like a first software, and of course it was illegal, so it was like a crack version. Who cares? But that's what I actually used.
I think all students. You're in school.
Yeah, exactly.
You
You
have
cannot
no money.
afford. You cannot
Yeah.
afford this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody just like somebody finds it in the studio, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden everybody in the studio has the same version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even these big companies that develop this software, they recognize that, and that's why they're offering the student versions.
Well, I was gonna say now they have student versions available everywhere.
Everywhere,
Pretty
exactly.
much. Like you can get it for free.
Yeah.
There's even some companies that say like, hey, if you're a smaller company, you can have the software for free.
Yeah.
But once you reach a certain gross,
Yeah.
gross revenue number,
Yeah.
then you have to start paying for our software.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Every company is different, but there's a lot now that recognize hey, if you're smaller or if you're a student, you don't have
Exactly.
money for our, you
Exactly.
can't pay thousands of dollars for our
Exactly.
software.
And that's smart thinking, because sooner or later, if that guy is decent enough, his company is gonna grow and he's gonna be able to afford it.
Well, that, and yeah, if you're trained on it, that's what you want to use.
Exactly.
What did you think of
Exactly.
the software when you were using it?
So the BIM software was like
BIM, by the way, Building Information Modeling.
exactly. So that is pretty much software. You draw the line, it's a wall already.
Yeah, and it has thickness to it. There's the substrate. There's the studs. There's the insulation. Like you can put all that information into the model.
Exactly.
So like your whole building is basically filled with a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
you can pull off areas, square footage, whatever you need to do.
You actually drawing in 3D right away.
Yeah. You can do energy modeling.
Yes.
You can gather, again, information, middle word there. It's like all this stuff is at your fingertips.
And yeah, it's your disposal. And most importantly, you actually can see the 3D how the building looks like from the inside and outside right away.
I think that's where you get these people that are like, oh, I need a section.
Chop, chop, chop.
Yeah,
exactly.
they have everything there, and they're just like,
exactly.
Oh, I'll just cut it up.
I will almost say that's like almost like abusing the information that you have. Yeah.
Or it's that information overload.
Or information overload that we actually talk about. Exactly. Information overload.
Yeah. But what did you think of the Arcasoft?
So the first version has a lot of limitations.
Yeah.
For example, if you wanna like angle the wall, if you wanna do like double curved elements, you know what I'm saying, like hyperbolic parabole, you know what it's like, a stuff that like almost looks like a shell.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, So building just like a straight wall was good. Putting the windows, air curtain, like a curtain wall system. But as soon as you're trying to like angle the curtain wall system or do something a little bit, not orthogonal, that was a struggle. There was like or you have to create super family, or you have to kind of cheat it and use like use like a roof tool to build some kind of angled wall or whatever, because architect we like always to explore options and stuff. But was good. Another first problem is that you have to put a lot of information in advance. You already have to think like what my wall is going to look maybe made of.
Yeah, I think that's where people also get hung up with too much information.
Exactly.
Right, and then they start to lose the ability to really wade through all of this stuff.
Yeah, which actually the software companies now recognize that, because we as an architect, as concept starts, I don't know what the wall is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be a brick, if it is going to be
some rain screen
or it's going to be curtain wall system. I don't know
whatever.
that. I'm playing with it, and this is like almost like someone give me like a Play-Doh, and I'm just creating something from it. And I cannot know in advance how things look like.
Yeah.
So,
do you use any versus the BIM information modeling? Are you using any other softwares initially?
Yes.
Or you're still sketching by hand, right?
So I was sketching by hand a lot at that time, but then because of the limitation of the ArchiCAD, I start getting the annoying 3D Studio Max.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all softwares that are out there, there's no one software that doesn't.
No.
Period. And I think in any industry, architecture aside, I don't think there's, from all these technology. I mean, look at like the AI boom recently.
Yes.
Right? You have all these different AI platforms doing all these different things. No one tool does everything.
Yeah, like trying to fix the car with the one wrench.
Yeah.
I mean, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Same thing in every profession.
Oh,
you
yeah.
need multiple things.
Look at these mechanic shops. They got like a whole tool chest of thousands of tools.
Stuff.
Some of them specialized.
Yeah. Same thing. So then I use a 3D Studio Max, but ArchiCAD actually had pretty decent rendering capabilities, pretty good.
Yeah.
But then I want a new level. When I was like, I just hang up on it and was like,
you can't beat 3ds Max.
Yeah,
you can't.
You cannot, because 3ds Max, as I said, is your Play-Doh. It's almost like having like a clay model, and it just like put you in your hands and you start modeling whatever the hell you want.
My first exposure to computer software, it was Maya.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And Maya is very similar to Max.
Very similar to Max.
Yes.
But then at a certain point, Autodesk, I think, actually bought, because Maya was
Yes.
a separate company. I forget what the company was.
I forgot.
And then
yeah.
Autodesk bought them, and now it's an
Bought them.
Autodesk tool.
It's-
Autodesk bought a ton of people.
Oh yeah.
I think
Soon
they
as
even-
they yes.
I think they even bought Revit.
They
I think
bought it,
Revit was
yeah.
independent.
Yeah,
And
they
then they
bought
bought
it,
them
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I transitioned as well over into Max at a
Yeah.
certain point.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, the fluid ability to, like you said, Play-Doh.
Play-Doh,
I think
exactly.
it's perfect representation
Yeah.
of what you're talking about. To push, to pull, to cut,
Yeah.
to remove, extrude, twist, bend, whatever.
Because sometimes it's very hard to sketch something in a 3D if it is not like orthogonal. You cannot you can use the perspective, but if you want to have something like sticking out from your model, you have a box and then you have something sticking out under the angle, like I don't know, like a cylinder or something. You really have to have multiple lines to construct that collision between two elements.
Yeah.
While in
Even-
computer, I can just easily do that, rotate and see it, what effect I'm getting.
Yeah.
And for me to construct, and I construct the perspective in my hands, sketch it, and I was like, it's not right. I should move it left or right, or maybe turn it by, instead of 40 degrees, maybe 90 degrees or 60 degrees. For me to redraw that.
Yeah.
In computer, it's just like a select, move it, rotate it, turn around. No, let's do this. Why
Yeah.
cylinder? Maybe try pyramid or try something else.
Well,
And-
even when you get into more complex shapes, too.
Yes.
If you have something that's sweeping,
Like a shell, yeah.
sweeping a corner, like you said, double curve,
Double curve, yeah.
and it's like bent and rounded and sweeping.
Yeah.
Again, the complex geometry, I think the computer really helps
Yeah.
you quickly iterate between whatever ideas
Yeah.
that you're thinking, and then be able to see what's going on.
My
with it.
favorite tool, and that I'm glad that tool is now being called same in every software,
Yeah.
is Loft.
Loft.
Oh yeah, I love Loft.
Yeah.
Loft is literally like, what is the Loft? I have a curve there, I have curve there, click and creates the shape.
Yeah.
So Loft is Loft, then I will say Sweep is pretty more often, Extrude of course.
Yeah.
But Loft is like, it's one of my super tools I love to use.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah.
even today.
Yeah, I would agree. After Max, I got into Rhino quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and Rhino has a Loft, I think.
Yeah, Rhino is a phenomenal tool for modeling.
Super tool, very easy to learn.
Yeah, Loft I use
Yeah, a lot.
all the time.
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. So it was like yeah. So yeah, that's like one of the softwares. When did you? I know you are so for you guys that don't know, Paul is like a master of the renderings. He's the god of all gods in the renderings. So when did you start your first renderings?
It
And
was
what
in
software did you use?
Maya.
Maya.
It was in school.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a built-in render engine
Yeah.
inside of the software.
Yeah.
And then
Like
late-
Max has it. Max has its own
Max has
engine.
its, whatever they call it now,
Yeah.
Arnold or something.
Yeah.
They have their own proprietary.
Before it was called Ray Trace or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and then it's changed over the years,
Yeah.
and so now they have same thing. Like they have a built-in renderer to a lot
Yeah.
of these software. Even Revit, you can render stuff, or ArchiCAD, you can render
Yeah.
stuff. But I did it in my second year of school in the university, and I was really pushing the boundary of what this thing was going to look like, and we weren't allowed at that time to do
I
anything in
know.
the computer. And so I'm trying to draw all of this stuff by hand.
Yeah, to replicate.
Yeah, and my teacher was like, man, he came over and he had the idea. He's like, yeah, this is like, he's like, I want you to try this. He's like, how are you going to do that? And he was sitting there like thinking with me, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if he's like, man, it's really going to be, you're going to be here for like weeks doing this by hand.
Exactly.
And then he's like, okay, come here. And he like had his laptop, and he's like, yeah, you need to get this program.
Nice.
And so he's like, yeah, go ahead. He's like, I'm like, but I thought we weren't supposed to use computers until like our third year. And so I'm still in my second year of school, and he's like,
For a pioneers that pushing
like,
the boundaries,
yeah. He's
man.
like, whatever.
There's
He's like, just do it.
No, that's
So-
and that's how the system should work. I
Yeah.
mean, you should have some boundaries and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
for a guy, I mean, because someone said that people should have same opportunities, but the outcome cannot be the same because we're all pushing in different directions. Someone is more ambitious. Someone wants to be like more exploring, just looking what is behind.
Look at like Frank Gehry.
Yeah.
Like he pushed into like aerospace softwares so that he could model the way he wanted to model.
Exactly.
And then he partnered with them and started to develop his own tools and software. That then he was selling to people.
Exactly.
So that, again, that was like his stamp on his direction of how to do things his way.
Exactly. Because there's no way you can actually draw his buildings.
Without using these softwares that can handle all this shape.
I mean, you can sketch it, but that's a sketch. We know how sketch can be deceiving. So it's like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I think from then on it was like computers path, and that was like that's when it started.
And then when we met, we hang up on V-Ray.
By then, so second year was Maya. I think once I got into my third year, I was exploring stuff like Max and V-Ray and like the renderer in Max. But then very quickly I realized that I needed better renderings, and there's other softwares that load in, like I said, there's no one software that does everything. So like even the built-in stuff was not good enough. So there's other companies that make other tools that connect to the modeling tools. And then it lets you like visualize it.
Exactly. You have like a bunch of these plugins. Even for like a basic software, you have all these plugins that you could just like, this.
Even to like create the floor, there was a certain script that I would use. And I would load it into the software, and the script would then run and give me a little window box that had all my parameters, and then I could adjust all these values. And then it created a floor based on what I wanted, and I could do bevels and offsets.
You can do like a real that was a fun. It was a fun time. This was like a really cool. Really likes this stuff that we're doing. It's like it's going through the same path of exploration. And going back to Brunelleschi and friends back in the Renaissance, it was the same task. It was the task of how to resolve the problem, how to visualize it, and how to sell it to the client. Who's eventually paying for that.
I think as architects, our primary job is to be able to tell a story. And communicate what that story is to multiple people. Clients, engineering consultants and partners, and then at the end of the day, the people that build it, the guys on the site, on the construction site building it. We have to be able to communicate to everybody and tell our story.
And if you think that is your design is God-given design is never going to change during the process of design, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. Your design constantly evolves and changing the shapes and stuff. So it's like
even once you get into construction, it changes.
It changes. Because it's just a complex thing that you cannot foresee everything. You just cannot. It all has to be something that it was like we're doing this. Like I'm doing this audition for one of the radiology department here in Columbus. And we're like now in design development phase, and my co-worker asked me, like, we have these new renderings, and it doesn't look like my first initial design, or especially first design that we actually show during the interview.
To present to the client.
To present, and the client loved it, and this is one of the reasons we actually won that project. But since then, design changed quite a lot.
Reality hit.
Reality hit, money hit, and everything hit. And you know what? And this is what I'm telling a young architects is like, don't be shy to show your idea to the client. And even though it's sometimes unrealistic, it's just some clients, especially if you have high competition, clients like to see you that you're capable of bringing something new to the table, especially if you're competing with other people. Even though it's a little bit, flying in different directions, don't be always super realistic at the beginning. Give it a little bit, and clients, well-educated clients will know that. You also have to we have to be careful to what client you're presenting.
It's funny going back to school when I was first learning all these softwares. The number one thing that I was trying to do every single time I produced some kind of image of something. I was trying to make it as real as possible.
Yes.
Photorealistic.
Photorealistic.
So
Yeah.
like you show up on site with a camera, you take a picture.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted it to look like.
Yeah.
And that was like all I learned all these different softwares and tools and techniques and plugins and scripts and
Yep.
all this stuff to make it as realistic as possible. And then as soon as I got in the firm at my first job and I started using some of these tools, and like you said, by then I was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I was
Oh
pretty,
yeah, you're a master. Yeah.
and then I developed even further from
Yeah.
there. But it's like even when I got into the firm and I started doing it, and they're like, no, it's too real.
Yeah, it's too real. Too real. Exactly.
Like, we're designing here.
Yeah.
We need to like make it look like somebody
This-
colored it with a colored
exactly
pencil.
still massaging this thing, so we
Yeah.
have to, because sometimes this is the journey that you go with the client. It's almost like they're twisting your arm. If you have like a design build, they are twisting your arm because of the money and you know what I'm saying, schedule. Then if you're working on a project when you have like a big corporations, or if I'm working on these medical systems, healthcare systems, it's not one person that making decision. There is like a steering committee. There is like a group of the people of the leadership, and not all of them is gonna have the same opinion. One person can like it.
10 cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Everybody has different taste buds.
that's why you almost have to bring them. That's why storytelling is very important. You have to bring them to your like bandwagon
Yeah.
with you, and so they have to feel that the journey that you actually going through.
Yeah.
And that your new softwares that you're using can help you that.
It's like
When you're just finally tuning like from sketchy renderings to the photorealistic, because on the end, like my project, they asked me, okay, can you now send us a little bit more photorealistic? So I was like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah, and then it gets painful once it's built, because then they hold up the picture.
Oh yeah, this glass doesn't really look like this.
I think that's one of the difficult things, because like when you make an image, you can control anything. I can make it the most beautiful summer day.
Oh my God.
Even though right now we're sitting, looking at snow and ice on the ground outside. But like right now I can show you an image.
And affects the color.
Yeah.
And especially affects the color of material that are reflective, such as glass, such as metal.
Yep.
Even brick can be different.
Yeah. I can make a summer sunset
with like
warm glowing sun.
Yeah.
Hitting the building at a certain angle and like giving you this like glare and sheen and all of these materials are coming to life based on the lighting. And like you get, and it's like a rainy day in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. And he's standing there, and it was like, it was like
this brick color looks completely different.
Yeah.
Nino, why does this image look so different? Yeah, that would happen a lot.
Yeah.
We had to start on our images were so good.
Yeah.
When I was in my Chicago firm.
Oh, I know.
We had to start putting disclaimers.
Disclaimer down below.
So the client would ask for a photorealistic image, and it's like, okay, sure. And then this is an artistic interpretation of conditions.
I was in a meeting, and there was a guy who was representing the mayor of one of the cities, United States. I don't want to say what city, what mayor, whatever. And the guy was there. So we actually did the rendering, sent them the rendering like a digital version, and then we printed. Unfortunately, we were rushing our print, so we didn't use our best printer. So we used still pretty good printer. But the color of the red brick on that school
was like
wasn't actually exactly was a meeting mayor's expectation.
Way too bright.
The guy was even like a yelling at my supervisor, telling him that he can fire him right now, right here.
Yeah.
Because of the stupid rendering.
Yeah.
And it was like the end of the freaking world. It was like, come on, guys. So that's what you have to be careful. These tools can be double-edged sword.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you have to understand the industry. You have to understand the client. But if you bring them to that bandwagon, if you sell the story from the beginning, explain them the process. Like clients I'm working now, mostly they're well-educated. They're working with renowned architects, nationwide architects. They're building giant buildings. So they're very sophisticated clients. They understand the industry.
Yeah.
And many PMs of these clients are already like architects or contractors, or or engineers, so they understand that. But if you facing especially new client, then you have to like introduce the technology that you have, explain how technology works,
Yeah.
how you actually work. You don't have to go to the details because you just
but sometimes there's a certain education
that
of
needs
the
to happen.
client
Exactly.
that needs to happen.
How things
Yeah.
can be represented, what we can do, how fast we can do.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, that's why we started putting the disclaimer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come back to me and was like, can you change this? Can you change that? And I told my rendering guy, I was like, okay, now render this. And it's Friday. I will not send it today. I will send it on Monday, 3 o'clock. So he thinks it takes time to make this change.
Yeah.
Because now he's gonna start going the down spiral and just gonna, this soldier course here. Can you extend it a little bit? Can you do this? And I'm just like, come on, man. Yeah, I mean, so now you hang up on something, and it was like talking to your wife, and I was like, what do you think, honey? What should we do here?
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to save clients from themselves. But yeah, it's like
because I mean, certain details can it's like you get lost in the, like you said.
That's called rabbit holing.
Yeah, and before, like when you talked about the amount of information that's out there.
Yes.
From back in history, what was provided to get something built to like even like the 50s, 60s. You get some drawings from then on buildings that were built, and you're like, how did they build this?
Yeah.
I mean, the information that was provided was not a lot.
Yeah.
Now it's like you have every nut and bolt and screw almost like detailed.
I mean, decent side project has like
and the client,
50 to 100 sheets.
Yeah, and some client wants to see like some specific detail and change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And back in the days, document was like 10 pages.
Yeah.
Entire school was 10 pages.
Yeah.
And you have all these decorations and sculptures and things. 10 pages.
Yeah.
That was a document.
Yeah.
Including structural everything.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and people wonder why architectural engineering fees are so much. Because we're producing sets that are hundreds of pages.
Hundreds of pages.
On larger projects.
On the larger projects.
Smaller projects, it's still reasonable in terms of cost.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like these tools just like, I think have gotten to the point where there's so much information.
There's so much information.
I think for us and for myself, we always try to give enough information, but not too much.
Not too much.
So we always try to walk that line where it's like we're not just dumping a ton of stuff onto a piece of paper.
Yeah.
For the sake of it. We're very careful and thoughtful. And if we show something, we try to only show it in one place.
Yeah.
We don't take that information and repeat it in other places.
Because some people watch the sport, like watch the Formula One racing or watch the basketball game, and at that moment he just wants to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about stats. He doesn't care about all things, intricacies that are happening behind the scene. Yeah. Unless you're that specific kind, and I can give you the tool and that you can go and explore more background story.
Sometimes I like that. And I kind of, like when we're watching racing, I try to track it. And like I know you're watching in the moment, but then sometimes you're like, oh, what's Charles laughing right now?
yeah, exactly.
And then I got it for you.
Yeah, exactly, because I know how I'm going to ask. Yeah. I know, but I know
I'm a minute 30, and Max is at a minute 20.
Because I know you're that kind of person, so that's why I need you. Yeah. I'm a person of the moment and emotions. You're a person of the data.
Yeah.
And how everything is tied together. So that's why it's good to have you around, only because of that. And this why I ask you that, not Nick. Nick will probably be like me, like, oh, I don't know, Nino. He'll be like what? Maybe
racing.
Maybe he'll be like napping in a corner. So it was like that's cool. But now let's go switch to the building information modeling, clash detections, coordinations, 360. If you can say a little bit more about that.
I think where all that starts. So part of it, if you're building from scratch, you do it all within the computer, and there's different tools and softwares that you can use to coordinate and check to see if you have a pipe going through a beam that should not be going through a beam, because you can't. You either have to bend it around. You can't just go straight through it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other thing I would say too, if you have an existing condition,
Yeah.
technology and using the tools that we use, like our laser scanner.
Scanners, exactly.
So having that device shoot out the laser to take billions of points of data and help us construct a 3D model.
And see things.
Yeah, and see things not only in 2D, but in 3D.
3D.
We can take sections of stuff.
Yep.
I can go into a house and scan everywhere that's, even if it's not down to studs, it hasn't been like fully demoed.
Yep.
It still has drywall and whatever, plaster on the walls. And, you can't see through the walls. But I can scan in every room, and then when I take a section, I'll see the thickness. It tells
thickness of the wall.
And I'll see the thickness of the floor.
Exactly.
And I'll know, those joists are probably 2x10s. Or 2x8s or 2x6s.
And it gives you like understanding how much you can actually hide into this, what pipes you can run between these joints and stuff like that.
Or the beam is 18 inches deep or 20 inches deep.
Or sometimes we like in a field, you cannot see everything. And for example, you like use your laser, like your regular like a hand laser device, and you're like, okay, ceiling here.
Yeah.
Now I know. But when you do the 3D scan, you see that ceiling may drop somewhere, or it's actually sloping because the building all is crooked or they didn't do well job when they built this building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So from scratch you draw everything perfect. Right? It might not be built that way.
Yeah.
I've had buildings where we've gone in and we've scanned.
Yeah.
And the column grid is off.
Yeah.
Like you would think the column grid would be an even spacing.
And should be the most precise thing on a building.
Yeah, and it looks like 20, 20, 20. But what happened was the building was like two separate buildings at one time with a wall dividing the space. And there was, at one point in time in its history, they came in and they ripped out that wall.
Oh.
And so you had two buildings built at two different times with two different column grids.
Wow.
And that was why these shifts in column grids were happening.
Because of that.
So when you first walked in and you saw this big open space, everything looked pretty, to the eye, just the quick eye looking. Everything looked, even.
By grid,
Probably 2020, 2020.
Yeah.
But then when you go, it's like, oh no, it's 2020, 18, or whatever, 30. And you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But again, if you have all that scanned and put into the computer, you have it all captured, all that information. You put it in there, and then you can plan all your renovations, and then you can use these softwares to determine where everything is running, where all the utilities are coming into the building. And if there's some issue with coordinating, oh great, I have to move my grease trap because of whatever, because of the footer for the column. And we can't bury it.
So actually, what you actually scan, create this 3D point cloud model that you now link to your Revit file.
Yeah, I wish it would create a like a solid model, but it's points, literally billions of points.
But still,
it's enough that it gives you an idea. You can draw straight lines and walls and everything.
But Revit recognizes it. You can cut the section; it will cut you exactly to that point cloud, and then you see the exactly like a. Especially if you're trying to match like a floor heights with existing building, or if you just determine like. What I like your 3D scans, I also see like a slope of the terrain that many people just assume to be flat. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Because you may have 3 steps here, you may have 4 steps here, or 1.
We did a boathouse that had like 70 feet.
Yeah, drop
within like 50 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty steep.
It was pretty steep. And good luck building that without actually 3D scanning the terrain.
Yeah. Or understanding the height differences.
Exactly.
And where stairs need to go and what's the height from here to here and how many steps.
Yeah. And for people that don't know, so now these models, we call it 360, they can actually live in a cloud, designated cloud. So architectural model, structural model, MEP model, technology, all these models are actually all living in that cloud. They're actually all aligned perfectly. So you can do like a clash detection, so you can determine exactly see relationship between ducts. Structure, pipes.
Yeah.
So I usually tell my a younger stuff first things first is your grid is must be the most accurate thing. on a drawings, and everything should start from there, from that one of these point.
Do you know when they build these things on site?
Yeah,
That's like the first thing that
that's
they're
exact
having a surveyor come out with like
layout.
with like a
Yep,
$10,000
yep,
piece of equipment to precisely put exactly where on the site that point is that you're showing on your drawings, and that's the intersection of two grid lines. And then they go and they do the next point,
Yes,
the intersection of the next two
the grid lines, because that's usually the most accurate point on your drawings.
Yeah.
And then you look, and it was like, I will say, like, first check the low hanging fruit. Check the stuff that they're taking the most space: structure, ducts.
Yeah.
Check these, check any collisions, everything. If you move the duct, see how that plays with your ceiling. You see that everything is in 3D.
Yeah.
Then you start with the pipe.
You need a lower ceiling,
But
whatever.
Paul,
You need something.
Yeah, I'm doing this like a OR. We're looking. I want my outlets in 3D.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be in 3D.
Yeah.
There's that matches with the Da Vinci robot, or matches with the physician stations, or like and all these vendors who are like booms, lights, equipment booms, surgical tables. They all now have everything in 3D.
Yeah. Well, you have hundreds and hundreds of things.
Hundreds of things
to coordinate within one room.
Yeah, it's a spaghetti.
Yeah.
It's a literally spaghetti in a ceiling.
Yeah. Even on some simpler buildings that I worked on. Well, it's simpler in a certain sense, but like they use technology to basically like track you in the store, and it was like a walk in, walk out, and you just pay, and they know what you got in the store. And so it had sensors for like even like the weight of the shelf would change if you picked up an item, and it would know, oh, we need to look who's there grabbing what.
Exactly.
Oh, this person is grabbing that product from this shelf.
Yeah.
Okay, add it to their cart.
And when you design something, you have to see that beam is not on the way of the camera or whatever. So it was like they can depict, technology can work.
Yeah, so we had thousands of cameras in the store, in this ceiling hanging down.
Yeah.
And all this had to be coordinated. But then I guess my point was we had a certain grid intersection.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning of the project, we said, okay, D3.
Yeah.
From that point, all of this stuff is going to be measured.
Wow.
And so, like, that's the reference point.
That's a reference for everything. Yep.
And for everybody on the project, and for so like, if the mechanical engineer is doing something with the mechanical ducting, or the electrical engineer is doing something with like a cable tray, you know, where all the cables are coalescing together. All of that was referencing back to that point.
Reference point. Exactly.
Display cases that were going in the store.
And that's what they're using to align their models.
Yeah.
All models should be aligned to that reference point.
Yeah.
So when they start construction, they're going to start from that reference point.
100%. So it was like crucial to get that point, and all measurements to that point super precise.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where technology is today. And that's why technology can help, and definitely can help. But also, we cannot skip some steps. You know, some steps eventually they disappeared through the time and development and technology. Some steps are just disappeared, but there are still some steps that always gonna follow this profession in architecture, which is design is a journey. You need a story to tell. You have to understand space.
Yeah.
You have to understand how these things correlate to each other. You have to have that vision of the space in your head. And that's why studying architecture and being an architect, you have to have certain elements of skills. Would you want to call them like a talent, God-given things, whatever you want to call it, but you have to have that ability to understand the space. Also, if you are with the ability to present that to the client, even better for you. But sometimes, you know, what is also I like to see, and what I see, because our profession keep evolving, it's a super multidisciplinary thing. You just cannot have one person knowing all of this stuff. That's why you have a teams. That's what you have, like skills. You have to know what you're good in it, what you need to work on it, and you have to correlate with for example, you're very good technically. That is, but you also understand the space. You're also really good designer. Nick is really good in communication, for example.
He's pretty decent at doing some layouts too.
Exactly. It's still this exactly. So it was like so we all have something to overlap and contribute, and that's how your architectural firm is working.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're stronger as a team
Stronger
than trying to do everything yourself.
No, there's no. It's so complicated.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the future developments with the AI stuff. I don't think. I mean, there's some tools that are out there that help to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But again, like there's no one, size fits all solution for your projects. No. And even like the AI tools that are there now, I think need work still.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, like some of the tools are geared towards producing 100 different versions of something in the beginning design process so that you can see, oh, you like this better or that better.
Yeah, just to challenge your brain a little bit. There was like a, But
the one thing with all these tools, it doesn't do it for you.
No.
You still have to understand the direction you want to go, the story you want to tell.
Exactly.
And if you're bringing others along with you on that journey, you're the one who has to be able to guide it and direct it and coordinate it. You're not going to be able to take this tool, this wonderful, magical, artificial intelligence tool, and just say, give me something.
Exactly.
And it gives you something, and that's it, you're done.
And you're just like skip like 20 steps.
Yeah. And here you go, Mr. Contractor. Here's my image.
Exactly.
Can you build it?
She'll build it. Good luck with that.
He's going to laugh at you.
Yeah, he's going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Because you skip tons of steps. You don't even know. You just show him an image.
Yeah.
But you don't know how. You don't even know how that is going to be created.
Yeah.
Because you didn't develop it, and you go to the story by yourself.
Yeah.
At the first place, and that's how it is. But one thing that probably like first my use of artificial intelligence is going to be. I'm planning to actually get the trial of the software is going to help me with the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
That's something I think that meeting minutes, especially for any project, is crucial.
Yeah, I think written documentation.
Yes,
people think about architecture, they think about drawings and images, but I think certain written documentation is crucial for architectural practice. I think those AI tools that are out there now are actually pretty decent.
Pretty decent to do some. I mean, you still have to. What I actually heard, it's pretty good software. I forgot the name of it, but you still have to read through this because he may actually curate something nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You might get something where somebody's talking about something that's very erratic.
Exactly.
And it's translated to the erotic. And they're going to be like,
I know where you're heading.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell the full story, but the person reviewing the notes are going to be like, why was Nino talking about erotic structure? He kept saying erotic.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to talk with Nino.
Exactly.
What he was.
And he's sharing that with all my user groups. There's like 20 people on the email chain list. Yeah. Yeah, by now that's but I'm planning to do this first because I hate meeting minutes, but at the same time I understand the value of them.
Oh yeah.
They are incredibly important.
Even to go back and reference something. We've had, even on our projects, we've had clients come back like a year later, 2 years later. Hey, why is this the way it is?
Exactly. Because he forgets.
Yeah. And it's like, well, and I go back and it's like, here's an email.
Yeah.
Here's a PDF with notes and markups, and here's some notes that I took.
Yeah.
This is why it is.
Exactly. This is why it's
it's not our mistake.
Yeah.
Like we were directed to do it that way.
Exactly. Even you tell us, or there is specific reasons we did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're right. Having all that documented. So if you haven't done it yet, dive into it.
I will dive into it.
Are robust enough now. I think it's highly valuable.
That's probably gonna be first. I really still don't need it for like a design thing. Thank God, knocking on wood. And I'll probably play with it, but for now, I see really desperate need is meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much time, especially if I'm presenting.
Oh,
There's no way I can take meeting minutes and
you have to go back later and try to remember what you can.
What I actually talk. Yeah. Let me see. There is no way. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good spot to end.
Yeah.
The future AI conundrum that we're
conundrum.
walking into.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is unknowns the same from the same point when and I still gotta look positive. The same when Brunelleschi put his first perspectives together based on some first development that happened in Florence. Till now, it was all nothing but a good journey, and I'm hoping that right use of the technology will just put us in a new heights.
Like you said, we're constantly figuring it out. We're constantly pushing
and adjusting. We have to adjust. We cannot just be. I mean, you still can model the model in AutoCAD if you want, but it's going to be much easier if you start adapting, not fully, but partially at least adapting to ever-changing environment around you.
Yeah, 100%. It's a shame Nick missed this conversation.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm sure he had some good stories.
About plenty of stories.
Drawing in studio.
Yeah.
So nervous about his drawings, he'd be like chain smoking outside, or or whatever.
Yeah.
So trying to like deal with the stress of drawing in studio. So
I remember some things. Yeah, I remember some things.
Yeah, his sketching has gotten better though.
I believe so. I believe so. Yeah.
Do you remember when he started sketching? Even like 10 years ago, he was sketching layouts and he would send stuff to us. And you're just like, oh, I need a drink to try to understand. So Nick, if you're listening, your drawing has improved tenfold. Keep at it. Keep at it.
No, everything is a practice.
Everything's a journey. Everything's a journey towards improvement.
And we all have to improve. And I mean, good some stuff, but I'm not good in everything. So.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. And until next time, thanks for listening.
Thank you all.
This has been the ArcFluence Podcast. As always, you can get more information and additional content on arcfluence.com. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.